So it looks like Donald Trump just blinked again after threatening to obliterate the entire Iranian civilization. Here to break it down with me is Brian Tyler Cohen, out with the new book, The Day After: How to Wield Power in a Post-Trump World. Pre-orders available now. So the pattern that we see, Brian, is that Donald Trump makes this threat of a genocide, a threat of war crimes, a threat on a massive scale. And then that rattles the markets. He gets called out for threatening war crimes. Let's be clear, he's already engaged in war crimes already, and we should speak with moral clarity when we talk about what he and Netanyahu have been doing. But he then goes to Barak Ravid, the same guy over at Axios, and this just happened moments ago. I mean, my report from 10 a.m. this morning Pacific time was Donald Trump basically seemed to be threatening nuclear annihilation. I don't know how else you interpret it. And then he says this, this is Barak Ravid: progress was recorded in the last 24 hours in the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, but reaching a ceasefire agreement by Trump's deadline at 8 p.m. still seems distant, according to a senior American official, a senior Israeli official, and two additional sources familiar with the details. Now, this follows, Brian and Midas Mighty, senior Iranian sources saying if Trump does that, we're going to make the entire Middle East also light up in fire. We're going to shut the lights off there. We learned that there was some intermediary communications that may have been happening through Pakistan and others between Iran and Trump. The moment Trump posted that, Iran said, no more communications. We're not talking to you, even just to exchange possible messages. By the way, at your request, Trump, you're the one kind of coming to us. And now there's no communications. Then Trump posts that. And Brian, you break it down every day like we do here. You're an OG, someone who I admire, and you've been following Donald Trump's, career and just the modern day politics you covered in your book. Let's talk about this moment, then let's expand from there, Brian. What do you make of it all?
Yeah, I think something that's especially interesting right now is in the immediate aftermath of Trump posting that genocidal threat, you had a bunch of even diehard Republicans come out and condemn what he was saying. Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Joe Kent, all of these people started calling for an invocation of the 25th Amendment. And I think it's become clear even to, these diehard MAGA or former MAGA Republicans, the danger that Trump poses, because he feels increasingly backed into a corner. And when he feels like he doesn't have power in a certain situation, he lashes out. This is something that he's done time and time and time again. He wants to feel like he's got total control. And so if that means he's got to wield the full weight of the U.S. military in order to do that, clearly he has no qualms about doing that. But this is all coming from a position of weakness, not strength. And so Donald Trump coming out and feeling like he has to up the ante every time is not because he's, again, negotiating from a position of strength. It's because that feels like the only thing that he can do to try and get his way. And it doesn't work every single time. And so, of course, he's going to come forward and do the whole taco thing where he eventually kind of relents because at the end of the day, if he was to keep true to his promise, I mean, God knows where we would end up at the end of this. I mean, he said he would decimate an entire civilization. What are we even doing here? This is not something that would garner the support of the rest of the world. He would lose the support of NATO. He would basically have the support of, Israel at this point in doing that. And so, of course, this is just something that he has to kind of scream about, but that, if he were to actually follow through on, I mean, you would see an invocation of the 25th Amendment 5 minutes later.
Right. I mean, when this all started, he said, which we knew was a lie, but what he said was, I'm doing this for the Iranian people. That's what this is about. Right. And he's said that this is for the Iranian people, love when we bomb them. This is for them, and that goes though along with this past of, my opinion, being a predator and him say, and him saying, this is for your own good. You want this. This is what you need, and so, but his post this morning, it's not directed at the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. It's not the government. He makes no distinction. He says a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again, he says. And so he's now turned this into a battle of civilizations against an Iranian civilization, which has been around for over 1,000 years with a proud history. And, as your book discusses how to wield power, to me, this is the opposite way of how to wield power, because you are now emboldening and boosting the morale and bringing solidarity within Iran amongst an unpopular regime. And right. You've also alienated your allies. And so to what end? It's the opposite of power.
I think this is actually a really good example of the book focuses on how Democrats fail to wield power when they've got it, and how Republicans abuse their power when they have it. And this is the perfect example of exactly that. And I think that this could be instructive for Democrats who often feel held back by, the smallest thing, right? Any speed bump in the road, the filibuster, the parliamentarian, some, random norm or government process, like whatever it may be. That's enough for Democrats to say, oh, well, we couldn't possibly do anything here because, we've got the filibuster, we've got the parliamentarian, we've got, this law 501 subsection 3, whatever it is. It's like standard Democratic stuff. But Trump is showing that where there's a will, he can make whatever he wants to happen. And I think that it could be instructive for Democrats to do this in a virtuous way. That doesn't mean upending the entire world order and threatening nuclear annihilation to another civilization, but it does mean recognizing that we shouldn't allow ourselves to be stopped by the smallest thing, and we can figure out what we want to achieve for the people who voted for us and stop at nothing to get it. And if that means that people can get healthcare, if that means that people could get some climate change legislation that actually has teeth and does something, if that means that we have education funding and infrastructure funding, if it means that we can expand the Supreme Court, all of those things are within our grasp. It's just a matter of having the political will to do it. And Trump is showing that when you have the political will, that power is enormous, and he's wielding it for the worst reasons possible. But he's got a compliant Republican Party, and they all have a will to move forward and consolidate and usurp this power for themselves. And I think Democrats can learn a little bit about how to wield power when they're in a position to get it. And again, you can do it in a virtuous way, and you must do it in a virtuous way. But you got to do it.
Right. I mean, where even is Congress right now? There's a lot of calls, rightfully so.
Yeah.
25th Amendment with the cabinet or Congress, to do something. The threshold question is, while this unlawful and catastrophic war is taking place, the fact that Congress isn't even there, and you've got MAGA Republicans doing posts that they think are funny. You had Senator Scott posting a photo of him in Disneyland. Hey, I'm at Disneyland, everybody. Like it's some game, to them, and they're not even there. They're not working right now. I mean, they're out there on recess, and it's like, get in there. You're Article 1. Do anything. Anything is better than nothing right now. And it's just wild to see a completely compliant MAGA Mike, even someone like Thune, who, was always someone who presented himself in the past, as a tough guy, moderating force, even though that's not the case. They're letting this maniac go ahead and threaten civilization with genocide publicly.
You know what? I think this is important to note, though. And every time I do any coverage of Trump's, lunatic ramblings or screeds, I always make sure to point out the fact that, especially as we head toward midterms, folks know that this is not only on the shoulders of Donald Trump. This is the result of a Republican Party, an entire Republican Party that has emboldened him every step of the way. And so as we head toward midterms, where these people are going to go out and they're going to try and create some distance between them and a very, very, very unpopular president who is right now responsible for, a war that he promised would never happen, surging gas prices that he promised would never happen, raising increased costs that he promised would never happen. They're going to try to create some distance, but them trying at the 11th hour to create distance on a presidency that they have emboldened and allowed every single step of the way is not going to work. And so you've had Mike Johnson, you've had John Thune, you've had every single member of this Republican conference, except for Thomas Massie, come out and fail to exercise the authority and the autonomy that they have as a co-equal branch of government every step of the way, because God forbid they're on the receiving end of a mean tweet. God forbid. And so now I hope people recognize that this is unbridled Republican governance in action. They own all of this. It's not just Trump. It is the rest of this Republican Party. Trump isn't on the ballot in 2026. He's not going to be on the ballot in 2028. And so, but the rest of these Republicans will, and they are just as responsible for what we're seeing right now as Donald Trump is, because if they had one modicum of a spine, even a fraction of a vertebrae, this wouldn't happen. But every step of the way, these people have felt that it was more convenient for them to just sacrifice every ounce of their autonomy, contract every ounce of their agency over to the executive branch. And this is the natural conclusion of exactly that, where their president, who they have emboldened, is now coming out and threatening to eliminate entire civilizations. That doesn't happen without a Republican Party that fails to step up when Donald Trump is threatening Venezuela and Cuba and Greenland and Panama and Canada. This is the natural conclusion of all of that. And it wouldn't happen without a compliant Republican Party.
Let's talk about the media and news ecosystem, though, before we go, that you and I and so many other people, are working now to build so that, we can push back at this, at the disinformation that's out there, and I just find it so important, the work that you do and that you've inspired so many others, like us, Brian, to do. You've been doing this, for a very long time, with your head down, just doing great work. You take a look though at the way Fox treated Obama and Biden, and everything was a catastrophic thing, which in a Trump day wouldn't even be a news story, or if anything would be a positive story. The worst Biden stories would probably be a positive story.
It's a good day in the Trump era.
No exaggeration. But then, you'll have a situation where Donald Trump threatening, war crimes next to the Easter Bunny and looking like a maniac. And then you'll see Jesse Waters do this, and Fox commits to, like, this is the shtick. And they got a powerful damn microphone. Here, watch this. Let's play it.
War Bunny.
So imagine you're Iran and you're in a bunker and you're looking at Trump and he's telling you you're going to bomb me back to the Stone Age next to a bunny.
Yes.
That's nuts.
And they make it into this, like normalizing it. Talk to us about that before we go.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point because, look, the reason that I work in this ecosystem is because I think that these are the front lines of where these elections are won and lost. I know that you guys at Midas have kind of taken that more seriously than anybody else, and just want to take a moment real quick to commend you on what you've built. And I think that Midas is the gold standard now in terms of what could be done on independent media. I'm so grateful to see the work that you guys put in on a daily basis, the relentless amount of work, and how you understand the moment that we're in, and the fact that, again, these elections are won and lost in these information ecosystems, and that's how people get their news. That's how people build up their worldviews. And this world where in politics, where people can learn everything they need to learn about politicians with a 30-second ad in October of an election year is gone. And it took Democrats and the left more broadly a really long time to learn that. And you have put that into play in a huge way, because there are people, millions and millions and millions of people who watch your videos on a daily basis, who are building up their worldview and understanding right from wrong, thanks to the work you're doing. So a huge praise to you and your brothers and the whole team at Midas, and for everybody who watches this channel. Like what I wish for every single day is that what I fight against is the apathy of a country that generally doesn't, pay attention to politics. It's hard to get people to pay attention. It's hard to get stuff to break through. And so I know that there are millions of people who tune into this channel, and want to thank you all too, because it's that civic engagement that makes, that gives me some hope for the future. But, to answer your question here about what we're seeing, this does, the asymmetry in our media is a huge reason that we're in the mess we're in. And the Republicans have a well-oiled machine where they can turn anything into a massive scandal. I think I had just seen a tweet. I think it was like yesterday, about Obama was criticized for chewing gum. And that was the chyron on CNN. Obama criticized for chewing gum. And now we're in a situation, and that was like real news on CNN. Like, that's what the country was talking about. And now we're in a situation where the president of the United States has threatened to eliminate entirely, quote, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. And you've got Fox laughing it off. You've got these Republicans laughing it off. Megyn Kelly came on her show and she said, even if Donald Trump does, and I'm paraphrasing here, even if Donald Trump nuked a country, I would still vote for Republicans over Democrats. Like, ha ha ha. And it is that commitment to the bit where right-wing media has kind of allowed Republicans to act with impunity, whereas Democrats are held to a standard, an impossibly high standard. And it's that asymmetry that allows this party to flourish and feel like it doesn't have to abide by any rules. That feels like it can act with impunity. And the only way to stop that is to take an offensive posture, and to have progressive media that is going to fight back against this and own the narrative. And it's really hard because right-wing media is a well-oiled machine. They're very coordinated and they're enormous, and they've been well funded for a decade. Whereas, Democrats have felt like, okay, as long as we've got CNN and MSNBC, we're totally fine. And we've allowed this space to fall into Republican hands. We've relinquished, basically our entire control over independent media, but it's coming back now. And I think when we're able to own news cycles now, which is happening with increasing frequency, that is going to be the only thing, in my opinion, that really stops this sense of impunity for Republicans. But again, that doesn't happen without folks like you, without the audience that we have right now who's listening to this. So again, I just want to commend you guys for the incredible work that you're doing, because it is a fight. It's a slog every single day, and we're fighting against an opponent here that's got all the funding in the world, all the eyeballs in the world, and every advantage at their disposal.
And, that's why when people wonder, people always ask us, so you and Brian Tyler Cohen friends? When people see me, they go, what do you think about, we go, we love each other. I mean, this is, all about, building each other up, and the rising tide lifts all ships when it comes to getting out the truth and fighting for our democracy here and internationally. Everybody, make sure you do those pre-orders right now. The book is called The Day After: How to Wield Power in a Post-Trump World by New York Times best-selling author and my good friend, Brian Tyler Cohen. Thanks for joining us, Brian.
Ben, thanks for having me.
And everybody hit subscribe here.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Fidelkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MidasPlus.com.